Good day. It's wonderful to be with you again. And today we're going to look at phrases and clauses. Now, just to give you a little bit of a tip, when you do the quiz, it isn't going to be examples of phrases and clauses that you have to identify. What I want you to do there is I want you to know the rules. And then if you can identify what the rules tell you to do, you're going to find it so much easier to manage the rest. I'm Mrs. Swart, and I'm going to go through this lesson with you. Okay, so what is a phrase? A phrase cannot contain a subject and a verb. It could have a subject or it could have a verb. But you know, when we usually speak about a fragment, when you type on Word and you do a grammar check or spell check, then it says to you, it's a fragment. Now, that's more or less what it is. In other words, it makes no sense on its own. So if there's no verb, it's an incomplete sentence or a sentence fragment. You take something like the old man. We know what the subject is, but it doesn't make sense. There's no verb. Walked slowly on its own. There's a verb but no subject, which doesn't make sense. It can't stand on its own. So we know it cannot be a complete idea or complete sentence by itself. It cannot convey a complete thought, and it cannot stand on its own. It cannot stand alone. That is a phrase. Now, what happens with a clause? A clause can contain a subject and a predicate. A subject and verb and object. The verb and the object are the predicate. And we know that they can sometimes convey a complete thought. Note it says sometimes. So there will be times that it doesn't convey a complete thought. And we know that independent clauses can stand alone. So the difference between a clause and a phrase is a clause can contain a phrase or several phrases, but it has a subject and a verb, and they work together. So let's look at an example here. It's already been shown on the other slide, but I thought to highlight it a little more for you here. It contains a subject and a predicate. Now, your verb and object, I've already told you that is your predicate. It sounds like a terrible word, but it's actually so simple. Yeah, we know Jacob eats cake. Jacob is the subject, eats is the verb, and cake is the object. But if we say Jacob eats cake, Jacob is the subject and the predicate is eats cake. It could also just be Jacob runs. The predicate is runs. And most of you are saying, yeah, well, you know, Jacob runs makes perfect sense on its own. You do understand it. So sometimes they convey a complete thought. Then a clause is an independent clause that can stand alone. It can contain a phrase or several phrases, but it has a subject and a verb working together. Okay, I want you to learn these rules. They're very simple. It's about 3 for each one. And once you know those and you can identify, because you know your parts of speech as well, you know what a noun is. You know what a verb is. So now you'll be able to identify phrases and clauses because you know the difference between nouns and verbs. You can identify them. You know what a subject is. You know what a predicate is. And that is going to help you so much to be able to complete this. Now you're going to get to the fun part where you're going to check. And it's very simple. You're either going to say true or false, or you're going to say if something is a clause or a phrase. So if you know your rules, you're going to find it very simple to do this quiz. Good luck with the quiz. There's also a QR code which you can follow, which might be a little easier. And just to point out to you a slight difference this time, we've asked you to give your name, which is your name and surname. Then we've asked you to select the district you're from. Make sure that you know which district you're from. And then lastly, before you actually get to the real quiz, we have asked you to identify your school. It's going to help that the teachers can see where they must assist you a little better. So good luck with that. There you have the QR code as well. Wishing you great success with this. Thank you and have a wonderful day.